All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for podcast number 69.
You guessed it. We're talking about fan service. Yep.
Enjoy, guys.
Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
Time for a very serious time.
Very serious time.
Fan service. Because this is the podcast where we talk about fan service.
69.
Yep. Yeah. Was that intentional? No. Completely accidental. We had no idea that it was going to fall in this week. It just sort of happened.
Yes, it was always planned to be this way. Keikaku Dori.
Indeed.
Landgamer, thank you so much for the follow. Glad to have you here.
Yes.
Before we get too far into this, we have to shout out our new VIP patron, ID. Thank you so much for the support.
Yes.
Appreciate it so much. Glad to have you on the Discord too. It's awesome to see you there. And yeah. Oh my gosh. So fan service. Jacob, what is it about fan service and storytelling? It seems to be that, for us as very, cultured people who have a very, all-encompassing wide experience of storytelling have a real grasp on the empirical nature of fan service,
Because the thing is, fan service, we're going to get scientific here, but fan service is servicing the fan.
Oh my god, right. Jacob's a genius. Whoa!
200 IQ moment right here.
Right.
But basically, that's what fan service is. Now, the traditional notion of fan service of, tickle bitties and all that.
Yes, gratuitous titillation.
Exactly, right. That's one form of fan service.
Absolutely.
That is the most prevalent because across genres, for the most part, that is something that all people tend to desire, right?
Or at least a very specific part of the population
in some way,
that
shape, or form.
tends in that direction, where the form of the human body it's very desirable.
Awesome, yeah.
Yes.
Right,
indeed. But let's get into, where does storytelling mesh with fan service? Yes.
Well, the thing is that storytelling is all about managing audience expectations, right? Because you want to basically get the audience that you want for the story that you're wanting to tell, and then take them along the story beats, and
set up some expectations along the way.
Set up some expectations along the way, and fulfill those expectations, so that when they're thinking, "Oh man, wouldn't that be so cool if that
absolutely,
ABC happened?" Then you're like, "Haha, boom, boom, bam."
And then that sweet moment where you see the guy with fire powers that have been built up all throughout the series use his fire powers in this great big Sakuga moment, and you're just like, oh, you just yes, I mean, practically you provide fan service,
basically,
for anyone within a 25-foot radius of you. I mean, it's just
pretty much.
It's just accurate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that is something that's very important for stories.
Oh my god.
Whoa.
Dr. Woman Respecter with the 5,000 bits. I heard fan service. Just remember to respect women.
Yes.
Dr. Woman Respecter, absolutely. Absolutely. We respect women. Absolutely.
Yeah.
In the best possible way. And no one is better than respect. No. I don't want to make that comparison, but we're actually going to get into this in a quite serious way, guys. We're going to be talking about how fan service tends to be about how the creators of the story try to get a read on their audience, and maybe sometimes throw out some general fan service and some specific fan service to essentially capitalize on their demographic or their audience that they're shooting for. But we're also going to be talking about how doing so can slightly deviate from the expectations of a percentage of the audience, because they're going after the majority, but they can sometimes end up disappointing and alienating the minority.
Because everyone has a different opinion on what it is. Well, because everyone wants different things, right?
Yeah, so everyone desires different things.
Exactly.
We don't all desire one specific thing. We don't.
Exactly.
That's why it's... Never mind, I wasn't going to go there.
It's very similar to the rule of cool in that aspect.
We all swing different ways, you know?
Yeah. Because with the rule of cool, what one person finds absolutely supremely awesome, other people don't, right? And if you're having everything bank on them thinking that this thing that you're doing is super awesome, so that the logic of it can be sort of thrown out the window, well, some people will disagree, and then suddenly it can become a deal breaker.
Absolutely.
Sychronia, yes. Thank you. That is an excellent example. My favorite fan service is the character sort, like the scene, like any scene where Gamagori Ira and Mako talk. Yes, that is an excellent example of fan service. Not at all sexualized, but absolutely what we want to have happen, or at least what I want to have happen. And one of the ways that that's handled very well is that they don't make it the focus of the show, right? It'll be something that they'll throw in there and it'll be great. And for the people that love it, they will be like, yes, thank you so much for doing that. For the people where it's not their particular cup of tea, no big deal. It takes 10 seconds and then they go on to, you know, whatever's next.
One of the beautiful things about fan service is that you can tell going into a story, usually by the premise, whether or not the story is actually going to have fan service be integral to the actual plot. An example of this is, I would say, Kill la Kill. Yes. Kill la Kill does have specific instances where the fan service is absolutely integral to the plot. We're talking about those transformation sequences, those outfits. Oh my god, the dialogue, the phallic swords, even
everything. Like the thing is, Kill la Kill basically kind of shaped our perspective on fan service, because we had our perspective on fan service before Kill la Kill, and it was similar to what we have as our perspective on it now. But
but it has shifted.
It changed some things, because like I never would have expected that I would have been so hyped up and cheering for a transformation sequence like they have in Kill la Kill, while "Don't Lose Your Way" is going, and but you know, surprise.
Another example of fan service where it's integral to the plot, but it's not necessarily something where you're going to like it, but you will be told earlier on, is something like a non-anime show like Big Bang Theory. You know that there's going to be corny pop culture nerdy geek jokes constantly throughout, and that is fan service, and it's that is a very intentional, designed form of fan service that maybe 60% of the audience really likes.
That is an excellent example. It's too excellent, because the thing is, the Big Bang Theory also has a reputation as being horrible and absolutely alienating to the people that it is pretending to portray.
Exactly.
But for the people that basically want
to laugh at that,
absolutely, it's fantastic, right? They'll get tons of great laughs out of it, even though they don't actually know anything about the rules of Dungeons and Dragons, and it would be very easy to just say, actually, you know, have them be internally consistent, but whatever, you know, they don't have to do that. And that's one example where fan service can be great, because there are people that swear by the Big Bang Theory, and it can also have adverse consequences, because there are people that swear that the Big Bang Theory is one of the worst shows ever to scar this planet.
Right, totally. So, an example of also, I would say, where a very huge form of fan service in anime is like some specific tropes you'll see that have nothing to do with the, as I say, the gratuitous titillation. You can take any show where the weapons are obscenely large or obscenely complicated or obscenely just ridiculous, like Ruby.
Or any time in like a mecha show when they go in depth onto the actual mech and like how all the things work together.
The mechanisms of the appendages and the arms and all that. That is fan service. That is them targeting the audience that they believe they already have in the, like, at least the appreciation of the show, watching it. Like, at least they're on the slightly positive end of the spectrum.
Basically, they're going to take all the engineering nerds and just stoke the boner, you know, in them.
Exactly.
For wanting to see
it's all
like
foreplay. It's all foreplay. This is actually the thing, guys. It all is a form of titillation.
Is sex. Oh, by the way, I don't think we should use what was it? Extreme titillation?
Yes.
I think we should use extreme tittimation.
Oh, because we're talking about anime. Okay,
exactly.
Oh, by the way, Valenk, thank you so much for the follow. Glad to have you here. Oh my gosh. Semblance of sexuality. Ooh.
Oh, boy.
You guys remember Ruby Rod from... What was
Fifth Element.
Fifth Element. For Lost in Paradise!
Your mama.
That character is a brilliant example of fan service that also defies the expectations built up within the story. The story of the Fifth Element is absolutely weird, wonky, ridiculous,
and
fun, and amazing.
Absolutely
but
amazing.
Ruby Rod comes in out of left field with his overtly, just hilariously sexualized character in a way that is, I would say, tasteful and brilliant. But yes, you see that kind of character sometimes brought up in anime, and I would say that, oh my god, perverted old man, thank you so much for the follow. Glad to have you here. That's very apropos that you would follow on this podcast. We'll get to your archetype at some point. So fan service can be integral to your plot. It can be that one side character.
Yeah,
it can be done well. It can be done badly. But ultimately, every story that exists that's good has some form of fan service,
even if it doesn't necessarily take the sexual spin.
Exactly.
But even with, say, the sexual spin of fan service, Back Muscles Chan from Cabaneri.
There you go.
Great example of fan service that was done in a non-traditional sense, and people started realizing all sorts of like new fetishes that they basically had.
Well, I mean, the fit human body is an attractive thing.
Exactly, right?
It is.
And the bad rep that fan service gets a lot of the time, I feel like, is because of how it's done uncreatively.
Right.
You know, because it'll just be like, okay, let's see if we can fit bigger bowling balls into this girl's shirt that just do not make any sense.
There's a legendary GIF out there. I don't know what the show is, but it has something to do with zombies. And there's like a sniper rifle guy who rests his sniper on the girl's boobs and fires a shot while the boobs are like moving like this.
Yeah,
and it, like,
flopping in the wind, and it goes in between the boobs. Yeah.
That's the kind of thing where you know they're not only having fun with this and trying to service their fans, but they're just saying how hilariously stupid can we make this be, because we know people are going to just laugh, just die of laughter over this.
That's another great example. Shipping fan service. The show Supernatural, I mean, that pretty much sums up
we don't even need to talk about that anymore.
All that we need to say about shipping fan service.
Yep. Moving on.
Same thing to an extent with Sherlock. But yeah.
No. Supernatural is on a whole other level.
Supernatural is on a whole other level.
Yeah. There's more content to work with that there. So, if you look at anime specifically, there's a lot of I would say non-traditional fan service that people I would say tend to gloss over, because it's generally acceptable.
Sure.
There's this negative association to, I would say, a good portion of people with fan service. It's like, oh, fan service. No one I've ever heard of being like, look at this fan service. They just acknowledge it as being good stuff. They're like, oh, that was hype. That was amazing.
Okay, sometimes, like, Keijo exists, so sometimes people are like, look at this fan service, but...
I mean, but they're a little bit more just explicit. They're more like, look at the way the butt cheeks like flex and like.
Well, or just the fact that
they just moaned the word thick.
How incredible is it that anime as a medium comes up with stuff like that? Is more of what I tend to hear.
Absolutely.
But
But here's some examples that are, I would say, like smaller as far as fan service goes.
Blood is justice.
Anything with regards to shonen, where you have a character who's been, like, you know, kind of sitting on the sidelines, and they've been building up that they've been the legendary fighter this whole time. Like, they're great. And we've never seen them fight.
Exactly,
They never draw their sword or something.
Yeah, like Sword of the Stranger.
Absolutely.
Like, the entire film, Sword of the Stranger, right? He fights without actually drawing his sword, right? He keeps it in the sheath. And then, at the end, when he finally picks up the sword and he... Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Sword of the Stranger, it's amazing. The animation is incredible.
He fights with his sword.
He fights with his sword.
Spoiler alert.
And when he finally draws his sword, it's one of the coolest things ever.
They time it with the music. They time it with the stuff in the background. The sound effects are just on point.
And then after he does that, he does the cool thing. Then he does another cool thing that is like physically impossible.
But all that is basically that while the movie is going, the creators assume that by the point you got to this, you are a fan of at least the movie and to some extent this character.
Right.
So when this character has their moment of, one, character development, finalization of their arc, huge kind of story decision-making, like climax, everything, they time that with this moment of a rule of cool sword fight.
Timing the climaxes is very
important.
important.
The climax, kids.
Oh, don't say kid. Why did you have to add kids?
I'm sorry, I'm 27. Everyone feels young right now. I don't know.
Sure.
Our audience average is, I think, 23 years old. So,
okay.
So
I'm average.
Yeah, you're average. There you go. But that is the purest form of good fan service. I think it's easy to see fan service when it comes to action, because you can almost equate rule of cool to fan service.
Sure.
It's something that slightly deviates from your suspension of disbelief.
Right.
It pulls you out of it just enough to make you go, wait, what? And then it pulls you back in with the actual execution of it.
And one of the things that, in some ways, this might sound weird, but in some ways, is one of the reasons I prefer fan service in anime versus fan service in
For sure.
live action, because fan service does exist in live action.
Yeah, like fourth wall breaks.
Well, fourth wall breaks, but also just like
pop culture references.
Well, okay, apologies to any Arrow fans in the audience.
Oh, here he goes!
But
he loves to roast the show. Here we go. The bomb shelter.
I would say that basically Arrow is like live action Sword Art Online. And in some ways worse because Sword Art Online at least had the whole groundbreaking aspect of isekai and video games and all that stuff. But basically, in that, the fan service of the main character that banged every non-related, I'm pretty sure it was just the non-related females in the story. Hopefully it was just the non-related females, because he did have a little sister, but thankfully I don't think it went there. Ooh. But banged every other female character in the story, and then as soon as he banged them, they basically exited stage left. And it was the most jarring thing. I absolutely hated it, and it made me quit the series, right? There was a point where literally, it's at the finale, he's on a timetable to stop the bad guy, and then he's like, wait, hold on a second, I have something important. He bangs his girlfriend. Yeah, like, it was straight up, like, Commander Shepard level stuff. And the thing is that that wouldn't necessarily bother me if it was done in anime, because that would shift the tone and the type of show that the anime was. But in this case, because it was live action, there was this notion that I was supposed to take it seriously, and I absolutely couldn't. If that was an anime, then I could at least just basically say, okay, it's an ecchi hentai, or whatever it ends up being, right?
Daiki with the 250 bits, you deserve this, Jacob. Thank you so much, Daiki. You're awesome. See, the thing is, I love when Jacob roasts live action, because you can't, like, I can never, like, argue against it. He's to me at least, I know some of you might be able to argue.
There's a lot of backstory that goes up behind it.
Yes, he's spent time thinking about these things, and every once in a while, I'll get to hear the rant. Like I'll get to receive it. So when he's like, "Okay, I got to talk about Arrow," I'm like, "Oh, here we go," because I don't know how extreme of a rant it's going to be. But the thing is that, and that's one of the things that's amazing about anime, is that this medium, you can do whatever the crap you want, right? Yep.
So you kind of don't have an excuse to not have fan service in one form or other, whether you're talking about the traditional fan service, or like just service to the fans of giving them the things that they want to see. You should have that in there, because you don't have any excuse. You can do anything. One of the shows that we loved back in the day that was live action was Heroes, and we were fans of that series. Big time fans, and we always wanted to see these big fan service moments of characters doing the awesome thing and all this stuff. But they couldn't because of the restrictions of live action. They they had to work with the actors, they had to work with the cast, they had a budget, special effects were tough to do, and all this stuff, right?
Right. And the unfortunate thing was that when they would do their fan servicey moments, it was for like characters that we didn't really care about. Like, do you remember when the girl with the ice powers gets everyone in the parking garage?
That was awesome.
That was amazing.
That was awesome.
But who cared about that character?
Right, exactly. She had just been introduced like that season, I think.
A few episodes ago.
But that whole part was just so cool.
Right. So you can take fan service, break it apart, and realize that that's all it is. It's the fans being serviced. The thing is, though, is that whenever you do this, are you trying to hit a quota? Or are you trying to integrally, I would say, are you trying to execute on a higher level a specific aspect of a character's story?
You need the foreplay.
You need the foreplay. I'm telling you, it all ties into the sexual metaphors. It is like I'm sitting here. Maybe I shouldn't show this. This is coming in the unboxing video. As a boing.
Yeah, we recorded the unboxing video. It's going to come out today, and there's something very apropos. That's
apropos fan servicey thing.
You'll know once you see the unboxing video. But yeah, because the thing is that if you just are checking the box, then you will still probably have the audience where it is serviceable,
right? There you go.
But the thing is that for anyone outside of that audience, and it can get very specific.
Yes.
Then you alienate them.
Yeah, and I think that is actually what happened with Sword Art Online. Sword Art Online, for example, had a really good premise, a really good potential idea for a main character to deal with the, I would say, the traumatic experience of this whole thing, like the potential trauma of this whole thing. But it became a fan servicey harem bull crap.
Well, and the thing is, the fan servicey way that they did things, Sword Art Online has a very passionate fan base, right? with good reason. It hit the notes of the fan service for the audience that it ended up getting.
Yeah, it was just very,
Right.
you know.
But the issue that it ended up having was that the first 3 episodes told a very different style of story.
Right.
So then when they started doing the fan service stuff that they did later, that's fine. You can have that be your style of show, and that's great. But a lot of the people that basically loved the first 3 episodes suddenly felt alienated, and they're like, "Oh, okay. Well, I was expecting something awesome, and I thought I was going to get that, but I didn't. I was kind of cockblocked."
Yes. If storytelling is about expectations and fan service is about desire, don't use fan service to subvert the expectations of the story. Use storytelling to subvert the expectations of your story.
Yes, exactly. Right.
You can pepper the story with fan service. You can delude, dunk it in fan service. You can marinate it in fan service. But as long as your storytelling isn't subverted in terms of expectations, to an extent, of course, there's probably ways you can do it to a small extent.
Because like if you think about it, most romance shows, and this is one of the reasons why I get very skeptical when there's a romance story that is long form or ongoing, is that usually they'll do these things where it's there's the will they won't they, right? And that's an example of kind of foreplay for the fan service, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, if it's a long-running show and they don't have end in mind, and there isn't the journey in and of itself isn't worthwhile, then and you're just banking on that, then you're basically banking on just teasing the fans and subverting the expectations of the fan service that they want to get, right? And then saying, nope, you're not going to get it.
Yeah, one of the most common things that I've seen in animated shows or any kind of shows where there's a relationship, and this is something that I'd say it's happened enough where whoever are the big people making these decisions and stuff are making enough dumb mistakes with it that smaller shows are starting to realize that that's not okay and ruining it. And it is that you have a relationship of a will they, won't they, and at the very end, they slightly subvert expectations, or they heavily subvert expectations by having it go a specific way, and people go crazy. People get angry, absolutely angry, because again, this is about storytelling expectations being subverted. But even if they just do it in the slightest bit, because you've been building it up with so much expectation for so long, you kind of need to have it be the obvious ending.
Right. ReZero, for instance, great example. Now, maybe that was the plan all along, and that was kind of the whole point, and that was a way that it would garner infamy and popularity and all that stuff.
But that is why people read into eternity because of who's Rem, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a great example. Basically. I would say ReZero is a show that balances both the good and the bad. Both the good and the bad fan service with each other. There is bad fan service, I would say, in ReZero. And there's some really good fan service in ReZero. And when it's there, you know which one it is.
And because of that, because of the whole issue that a lot of people have with traditional fan service, it's created this kind of reverse fan service where not actually having fan service is a fan service. There was a line in a show where there's a little sister character, and I'm not saying what the show is because Caleb hasn't seen it. There's a little sister character, and they're introduced, and it's like, oh god, and they basically set it up so they know the audience is gonna be like, oh god, not the little sister trope. And then the main character's like, who would get excited about their little sister? No, that's gross. And it was the most amazing bit of reverse fan service ever. Baccano is another great example. There's no fan service in that entire show. And then the romantic couple in there, Isaac and Miria, are the
purest form of fan service.
The purest form of fan service. They are the best thing ever, and every moment with them is fan service because they make them to be such lovable characters where you just want to see them on screen and keep going on their gallivanting adventures with each other.
A thing that's interesting to point out, though, about fan service is that fan service doesn't have to be expected. While storytelling is about expectations, fan service doesn't have to be. The thing is, as long as it doesn't counteract the storytelling expectations, it's fine. I would say Isaac and Miri is a great example of also where you're not sure exactly what they're going to do. It's just you want to see them on screen doing antics that are silly and ridiculous, and they actually get a chance to, you know, talk and interact.
Right.
Because if you see them, like, sneaking around in the background, which they do sometimes, it's hilarious. It's amazing. But the really big fan service parts are when they have their little poses. Oh, show him my 1,000 guns. Bah, bah, bah. And they're like, wait, just watch Bacano again.
Watch Bacano.
Just watch Bacano if you haven't.
But another one that was like this was Attack on Titan.
Attack on Titan, yes!
People were so blown away in Attack on Titan when it's like, wait, holy crap, we're having gender neutral uniforms. We're having, like, naked people, but no, like, no female, like, you know, fan service with the stuff until, you know, they actually brought in the female Titan later. But even then, you know, that was something that I know for me made me able to fully invest in Attack on Titan as a series, because I didn't have to worry about being constantly jarred by, oh, fan service, you know, boobs, you know, whatever.
And that's the thing that's important. Because it's a jarring aspect for the majority of the fan service, that's something that people have latched on to identify what fan service is. And because I would say of us watching Kill la Kill, we've now, like, ascended. We've seen the light in some way. We've
leveled up.
We've leveled up a little bit.
A bit more comfortable.
We've got a ways to go, but we can now see the difference between fan service where it's there specifically. I think we use the word pandering a bit too much, which is probably the wrong way to look at it. What it is,
because the thing is that pandering, you should be kind of pandering to your audience, because that's just saying you know your audience, right?
Right.
Pandering has this negative connotation that basically you're sacrificing something to give your audience something that they want, as opposed to handle both. Why not both? You know, best of both worlds.
I consider pandering to be I decorated this fan service. Exactly. I put it on a silver platter. I served it hot and steamy, and it's exactly what they ordered. This is like something that they've been waiting 25 episodes for, and I'm just like, here you go.
Yep.
And they just go, hallelujah, and it just wafts the smell. It's just perfect.
Yes, you know? Mikasa flexing her abs is fan service indeed, and it is wonderful.
Now that's not in the show though.
It's in the OVAs.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, exactly. So we're here kind of to remove, I would say, a lot of the negative connotation with fan service. Think about those times where you've experienced the most emotional spike in a positive sense while watching a series like anime, and it was something that you had been wanting for so long.
Yeah, like Hisoka coming back at the end of Hunter x Hunter.
For sure.
Like, pretty much any time Hisoka is on screen is fan service for Hisoka, because he's such a fan favorite, right?
Yeah,
but,
and there's fan service where it's kind of in the neutral ground. I would say if we're going to use Hunter x Hunter as an example is that there's a part in the Chimera Ant arc where they shift focus over to the Phantom Troop to showcase some of their Nen abilities. I would say that's an environment of neutral fan service. There's negative parts to it in that we know that the Phantom Troop aren't probably going to be that important to the plot.
Yeah.
It's mostly just a way for us to see what they can do. It's cool because they'll probably be, coming up at some point in the future, but actually, like, in the moment, it's not really that there. So it's a little jarring, but it adds to the world. It makes us feel like this world is lived in. The Chimera Ants affect people that we wouldn't necessarily expect it to.
Another example of fan service that I absolutely love is in Game of Thrones, the Hound and Arya being together for so long. That was absolute fan service, because it's like, hey, let's take two fan favorite characters that are in way different places and have them travel together for a while.
A long while.
Let's do that. That'll be great. That will be awesome. It will be so fantastic.
And there's something about that too. That wasn't something necessarily that people were expecting. So that's probably one of the examples where it slightly subverts expectations, but because it makes sense in the story, and because the fan service, I would say, is subtle at first. It grows on you. Because you're not immediately happy that the Hound and Arya are together.
Right.
You're not thinking, oh my god, this is going to be the best pairing ever.
But it's like,
more like, okay, we're 3
happen?
episodes into this, and this is the best pairing ever.
Exactly. Another great example from Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones actually does a lot of fan service, a lot of the time to its detriment in the later seasons, but it has a lot of amazing moments of fan service, one of which wasn't in the books originally. Tywin and Arya's conversations at Harrenhal. Not in the books at all.
Yeah.
But, you know, let's just put this in there.
Yeah.
Some of the best dialogue in the show.
Yeah, some of the best dialogue in the show. So part of this is the awareness of the creator to kind of have a mental link with the audience. And this is something that I've heard people accuse generally long-running shows of losing touch with their audience. This is something that happens, unfortunately, maybe with a big studio where writers are getting rotated out, or like shifts in focus towards a different type of storytelling.
Let's use Bleach as an example.
But Bleach has a whole lot of industry issues with it as well.
Yeah, right. But as Bleach went on, their fan service became a lot more specific. It became around, the fights and things like that, and like
power-ups
and everything. And because that was the thing that was easier for them to write quickly, because of all the issues that were happening, behind the scenes and everything.
Yeah.
But and that was great for the people that loved that aspect of it, but for the people that were hoping for a different aspect of it, like say me and Caleb, it ended up getting kind of exhausting because that wasn't the whole reason why we came to the show in the first place.
Yeah. Oh, TrashOCon, end of FMAB in front of the house. I think that's an ending I waited too long. This is actually one of my favorite things that I was waiting to bring this up. Man. Every ending of the story should have fan service in it.
Yes, absolutely.
Every ending of a story should have some fan service. And let me extrapolate what this means. When you're writing a story, you want the ending of the story to leave the reader, the consumer, the audience, whatever, with an emotion.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't matter what the emotion is. If they have an emotion, that feeling will last nearly forever. You won't forget it.
Another great example of this, especially with regard to endings, is Code Geass.
Sure.
Code Geass has a lot of the traditional fan service.
Oh yeah.
But it lays on thick.
What do we call it?
The non-traditional fan
gratuitous
service.
tittymation.
Right. Well. Generally, I'm talking about when I say that, I'm actually talking about the boobs being animated. But like all the plot twists and all the thrills and stuff they put into Code Geass, that is absolute fan service. In hindsight, especially in season 2, some of them might not necessarily make the most sense, but they're basically all banking on the style of show that it is, and the audience that they brought in, and the expectations that they've set, and capitalizing on those.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I wanted to bring up references. One of the things that I would say Kill la Kill does really well is it constantly references other anime.
Yeah.
Like, throughout it. I cannot tell you how many references I'm like not even mentioning. I see it and I'm like, I'm just like, oh, that's a thing. And then there's the ones where they thrust it into your face really well.
Yeah.
But they're pervasive.
Right. JoJo's is another great example of that.
JoJo's is a great example
in a couple different ways. One, they've got the non-traditional fan service of the music references and everything like that, and just Joseph as a character. But then they also have the untraditional of the traditional fan service, in that the amount of man service in JoJo's is ridiculous.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. It's
beautiful.
Wonderful. It's fantastic. But that's definitely fan service. Like, if you think about it.
Yeah.
It is.
It is. One of the things I've seen with kind of the references side of things is a move towards finding a way to bridge gaps in the audience. So an example is, let's say, there's an anime, or even let's take a live action thing like Marvel's superhero stuff. They will do things that are references to the real world in order to make us feel like we are more connected to the world that they're in, so that we care about it more. There were a lot of these as they moved up towards the most recent Avengers movie in Infinity War. And they would generally use specific characters that would use references that made sense for their character to do. Right. I loved it. There was a very specific fan service-y moment where Spider-Man and Star-Lord talked about Footloose.
Oh.
And they're talking about Footloose while they're on a different planet, on a moon, basically, of another... area, and they're just gaffing off about an old movie, but to Star-Lord, it's actually a more recent movie. Did that scene have to be in there? No. But actually what it did was it showed an easy way for these characters to interact that didn't subvert the expectations of the storytelling, but actually gave us something that we wanted. We've been waiting for these characters to interact with each other, and of course the first thing they're going to interact with is fan service, because their interaction is fan service.
If you think
it piles on top of itself.
The entire Marvel Cinematic Universe is fan service, because they're basically saying, okay, we made one thing. Oh, you liked that? Cool. What if you got to have more of that in a sequel? Oh, Iron Man 2. No, throw that out. Okay, what if you got to have... What if you got to have other movies and stories and characters that you liked? And for all the comic book fans, oh, we know this is huge fan service to you, because now you're getting to see all those different characters that you wanted to see brought to life, right?
Absolutely.
But then, Avengers. Okay, we have all these characters. Cool. Let's bring them all together. Let's have them all interacting at the same time.
Yes.
That...
And all this works. And this, I think, brings us to kind of the big thing here, is that the reason why fan service is used is way simpler, I think, than any of us really think. It has nothing to do with connecting with the audience. It has nothing to do with like all that other stuff. That is
dopamine
good.
High.
That is, yes. It's the feeling that the fan service gives you, because the medium, the story, the entertainment links something directly in you. You get that hormone hit, and I think in some way that makes you you're a consumer that's stuck. You are going to make whoever is the provider of this.
They're making dopamine addicts.
They're making little addicts out of us, and it's beautiful because then they'll make lots of money. And we'll just be having the high of our life as we watch things like Kill la Kill or JoJo's.
Yeah, exactly. Like, every time we come back to Kill la Kill, like, yes, there is the fan service in Kill la Kill, but then there's the hype service of Kill la Kill. There's just everything about Kill la Kill, really. And then we end up wanting to come back episode by episode by episode, because, yes, we want to get that hit again. Same thing with IQ. And then
absolutely.
They'll build on those things, and they'll be like, yes, the thing that we know you're wanting to see, boom.
It's beautiful.
And then,
it's something that as storytellers ourselves, we want to figure out what are the ways we can provide tools within the story that lead us to opportunities to produce, I would say, good fan service. And I don't think that's easy. And I think we need to give a lot of respect to the stories that give under-the-radar fan service. Someone was mentioning earlier that the All for One versus All Might fight was not fan service. I 100% disagree.
Yeah, that was
the best fan service.
Yeah,
that is exactly what we wanted. Now,
one might say that MHA, the reason that it became good, or not became good, became popular, was because of how well it did the fan service on what it basically set up, on the superhero idea and all of that.
Yep, it's something that. Another reason I think this is another thing to bring up with fan service is that fan service is easier to do in anime. Like, it just is.
Because you can do anything. Like, again, this is why we love anime.
It's a creative medium.
Yep.
To quote my good hero, unique Nemosaurus. A creative medium, go yourself. You know. Danes777, thank you so much for the follow. Glad to have you here. Sorry I missed that earlier and stuff.
Any particular favorite examples of fan service, either traditional or non-traditional, in anime that you would like to mention? Because I know that I have a few favorites.
Yes, we would love to hear your favorite, like traditional fan service, favorite like non-traditional fan service, anything. So let us know what those things are. Oh. Yes, Yu-Gi-Oh! Yes, I was very much aware of that. I should have pointed that out in the discussion, but basically, can I quickly point out the bit with Dio in the center was a clever way of hiding the fact that Dio can't drive. Yep. I thought that was genius, and I wish I had said something, because when I rewatched it and all that, I was just like, great. Oh my gosh.
That's great.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, Cyros, you genius. Yes, you are right. 200 bits, thank you so much. Says that I feel like one of the most underappreciated types of fan service are a time skip near the end of anime showing where everyone ended up.
Yes.
Ping Pong the Animation did that. Did Toradora do that?
Kind of. Toradora did that. Harry Potter did that. What was the other one? Gurren Lagann did that.
Gurren Lagann did that. Yo. For a show that, like, is what it is with that kind of energy levels and hype and all that. There's so much to talk about the good fan service in Gurren Lagann.
Oh, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Like, it's just time skips at the end are one of the best things you can do.
Totally. Anime versus animation. Define the difference, please. Can animation in general have fan service? Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Avatar: The Last Airbender. One of the best fan service moments in the entire show. It's like Jacob's favorite scene in the entire show is when Zuko finally confronts his father.
Oh yeah.
That whole scene is just oozing with fan service. We've been building up Zuko's arc as this broken, lost character, and he finds himself slowly but surely over the course of 3 volumes. And when he steps up to his dad and basically gives him both middle fingers, and his dad is like, oh, once I have fire, I'm going to obliterate you. And he releases the lightning, and Zuko just takes it back. He's like, no, you.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's beautiful.
When I first saw that scene, like, such chills were running through my body. It was like I had been shot with lightning. It was, oh yes.
Star Platinum 08. Yes.
My favorite fan service is Explosion fan service. Yes. I also would agree with you on that.
One of the things that's something I've discovered that anime is very fond of, and in live action they don't actually do this as much, and I wondered why, but I think it's because the voice acting can be a little crazier in anime. There's a lot of loud fan service. So whenever you hear someone kind of screaming something and it's a repetitive thing, ora, explosion! You know, the baka! You know, like that kind of stuff. That is actually a mild form of fan service.
And usually you can tell when it's fan service, and it's easier to tell when it's there, when it's done badly. Like whenever someone has like something where they have to freak out about something and get really loud and violent, you know, bad tsunderes, or when they have a shtick where something upsets them, like Ed being called short all the time, you know. Like eventually you can be like, oh, I get what that is. It's basically just adding additional energy in there to elicit the response.
Oh, okay, that's interesting, Daedra. All for One fight isn't fan service because it serves a point for the future. You guys are expanding the criteria too far. So much so the thing you're discussing couldn't be called fan service anymore. Fan service has to be something that serves no purpose other than to satisfy viewers. All for One fight sets up future events and shapes even the narrative structure. Well, okay.
Yes.
So you're
absolutely
right. But let's think about the statement though. It's fan service, servicing the fans. Now, can you service the fans in such a way that also adds to the plot? Absolutely.
And the thing is,
and can you do it the other way without its plot? Absolutely.
You absolutely can. And because the thing is, fan service as a word has the connotation that it's usually a negative thing or a very specific type of thing, right? You know, sexualized fan service or you know, whatever, right? Yes. But it doesn't have to be there, and something doesn't have to be just fan service in order for it to be fan servicey, right? The All for One fight, it has a whole bunch of other things that tie into the narrative and all that stuff that isn't, you know, it's not just fan service, right?
Right. But we are definitely expanding the narrative, absolutely. But if you take about, in my opinion, one of the things that's weird about words or phrases is that the meanings change based on how it's presented within the mediums that it's used.
Right.
So fan service, more or less for us, a little while ago, was just about overtly sexualizing characters in anime. That was all it was to us.
And that's still, for the most of the time, that's what it is. Like, if we use the term fan service, we're most of the time referring to traditional fan service, right? But there's other types in there, and I feel like this is very important in order to understand why the traditional fan service exists and the part it plays. You need to look at the ways that it exists in storytelling that is non-traditional.
Right, and it is not mutually exclusive. The idea of servicing the fans being something that's only put in there for that specific reason, that betrays so many rules of storytelling. Because I would say, from the standpoint of nothing is put into a story for like one specific reason, like
or in good stories. Sometimes it is
true.
put there for the one specific reason, and that's usually where, you know, like me and Caleb will usually get upset with the show for doing that, because it's like, we get it, but we don't necessarily find this as serviceable as maybe the target audience that you're looking for. So this just feels like wasted time, right? And that's where that sort of animosity with some of the fans can creep in.
So people are saying we need a definition of fan service. we basically were trying to say it from the beginning, is that you're servicing the fans with the story by giving them exactly what you think they want.
Right.
Because here's the thing, you don't know what they want, but most people, when they do fan service, by the time they're giving good fan service, they know exactly what they want.
And usually with the bad examples of fan service, in the traditional sense, usually it's done because they don't actually know what the audience want. They haven't properly set up expectations.
Right.
So they basically fall back to just the biological foundation stuff that they know they can put in there, and some people will enjoy.
Erwin is my present with 100 bits. Thank you so much. I'm fan service.
Yes.
Erwin, you are...
Your eyebrows will lead humanity.
Yes. But I want to actually take apart this all for one for all fight debate a little bit, because one of the things that you could extrapolate there is say, okay, the fight itself, like the whole thing, is not fan service. I'd be like, okay, I'll give you that, but how the fight went down, what effects were used, that giant tornado, the United States of Smash.
Right.
If you think that was not put in there because the fans wanted the ultimate smash. They wanted the ultimate brawl of the fight. The way it was done, how it was done.
Like it was essentially just, I punch you, I punch harder, I punch even harder, I punch even harder, I punch super duper hard, I punch ultimate hard, you can't punch harder than this. Fight's over, right? That's kind of what the fight was, but because of how everything had been set up and everything, that was all that they needed to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's another thing that I would say is interesting to bring up, is the idea that fan service is something that was added to the story as kind of an afterthought, and I think that's something that's more of a exclusively negative look at it. One of the things that's just kind of been, I would say, hurting my brain more or less recently is just getting over the fact that fan service isn't bad. Like there's nothing about fan service exclusively that is bad. I think one of the parts that hurts my brain about that is I want to be intelligent, really high level thinker on regards to anime.
Sure.
And I'm forgetting that this is an entertainment medium. Like, I'm watching things for entertainment. And I feel like if the story condescends to me with fan service, they're treating me like I'm stupid.
Sure. Yeah.
And that is something that I think is totally fair. If you feel that with something, that's because the fan service just isn't connecting with you. It's not done well to connect with you, and that's okay. But I would say that looking at fan service from the example of giving someone exactly what they want. If someone wants something, like with all their heart, and this story has not given it to them yet, and then it starts building up to it, and you're like, oh my god, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. And then they do it, that was... The fan was serviced by the story.
Exactly. A great example in both the traditional and non-traditional that we are absolute fans of is Konosuba. Especially Darkness, particularly in Season 2 when she returns, right? And there's all the antics that come from there. That was fan service that was built up to. It was, audience expectations being serviced, right?
Right.
And it was absolute traditional fan service where we see her stripping down and wrestling Kazuma while being like
drained or something,
and in freezing cold water and stuff like that. And
it was like, ridiculous.
Absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah. That was a fan service character, and this is something I have always struggled with, is when I see a character and I go, oh, that's the fan service character. It's usually under a specific criteria of that is the character that is lowering my opinion of the show, because I feel it's dumbing down something for the purpose of making me enjoy it. When I already enjoy the story maybe enough, I don't need that. And that was a weird experience for me watching Konosuba for the first time, because Darkness was my favorite character. I could probably imagine a world line where you remove Darkness from the story and it still works. There's nothing about the characters in Konosuba, except for maybe Kazuma, where you can't have the character removed and still have the story work.
But you wouldn't want to have the characters
No,
removed.
absolutely.
That would be so terrible.
Ooh, Jad the Mad, thank you so much for the 100 bits.
Yes.
Thank you. Favorite live-action fan service is Doctor Who Day of the Doctor. Yes!
Yeah.
Do you know what this was?
That was where they got a bunch of the different doctors, and they basically brought them together.
Yeah, they converged. They converged the War Doctor with John Hurt, who's an amazing British actor. They added 10th Doctor and 11th Doctor, and they all met together. Also with Bad Wolf with Rose.
Oh.
And all of that converged into one big moment where, and it was also called, there was a part in the story actually called The Moment and stuff. It was a hilarious moment of definite fan service, but they built the story around it. And I think that this is something that again, if storytelling is about expectation and fan service is about desires, those are two different things. They can coexist.
Yeah.
They can.
There was a little bit more on here. Exists to service 50 years with the fans. Favorite anime fan service, Gurren Lagann. Is there a point narrowing it down further? Favorite sexual fan service, Redacted.
Oh no. Oh my gosh. Okay, well hold on. We missed a lot of things in chat. One example of fan service that kind of bothered me was whenever the Attack on Titan anime would make Mikasa say Eren repeatedly, even though she doesn't say it as many times in the manga. It makes her attachment seem more like a yandere, and her love interest relationship and hinders the character development a lot. I don't know if that's a yandere thing.
Well, but just like the overly obsession thing, of how many times she says Eren. Yeah,
totally.
Yep.
And it's been memed, and it's probably an example of fan service because most people insert themselves as the primary main character, so it feels good if you've already made that connection to have a attractive girl basically just saying your name over and over and over again.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Looping back to fan service, I just remembered that Kaguya-sama spent an entire chapter taking shots at cheap fan service and censorship, and it was amazing. Oh, cool. Okay.
Sweet. One of the things that I remember now about anti-fan service was that one of the reasons, like you've heard me say flat as justice, and I believe that, but one of the reasons that actually started was because I ended up getting so bothered with the fan service characters that whenever I saw a character that was the, flat as a board trope, I was like, ooh, yes, they're not going to be super fan servicey with this character because they're going to save that for the, quintuple D or whatever, anime character that's, on the other side of the room.
Oh, Daedra says that's too broad of a definition, which is why I think my point previously stands. Okay, that's fair. I think that one of the things that that also pulls apart our argument specifically is that because we're talking about how they're trying to please the fans, you could say then that everything is fan service because entertainment is always trying to please the fans.
Sure. Yeah.
But I would say a way to look at it, and we can talk about it in terms of priority, at the very least, I would say it's weird for me to call it the primary priority because that assumes authorial intent, and that is a part that I tend to ignore as one that loves to create stories as well as consume them.
Okay.
An example would say, let's say Jacob, comes out with his book, and people see, the amount of armor in it, and they go, "Oh, this is some like overt fan service. This is like all the way over the top."
Proud of it.
And Jacob's like, "Yes, you're right. That was my intent. It is fan service." And then they see something else and go, "Oh, this is obviously fan service because the interpretation is this." And Jacob goes, "Well, that's like the third or fourth most thing I was thinking about there with introducing that, but it's actually more so these priority things." So I would say that the fan service part is right because they perceived it. They felt that they were serviced. The fans were serviced by that thing, but it wasn't in their highest priority. So I would say that I don't tend to think of things in hard definitions in that regard. So maybe I shouldn't be the one to kind of hold a TED Talk dissertation on fan service, but I would say it is a disservice to fan service to call something that has only fan service at the highest priority fan service is, I don't know. I just don't think that's a good argument in my regard. I would say that anything that is intended to put in there that runs the here's a way we can do it. Anything that is intentionally put into the story that slightly runs the risk of of divulging a bit of audience expectations with regards to storytelling is fan service. That counteracts a couple of the points we made earlier. But I would say if you wanted a harder definition of what we were looking at, there's something else there.
Right,
but then again, that moves things into a subjective territory because you then have to assume authorial intent about what the expectations were being set up within the story.
Right.
So it's already a mess either way.
Stories are not something that are able to be quantified in very easily, and not at least with the things that I would traditionally want to analyze. Like you could analyze like the quantifiable stuff like word count and page count and things like that, but that's not as interesting.
Yeah.
With the things like fan service, there are definitely things that are more fan servicey than others, right? Darkness, for instance, and all the stuff that happens with her in like her episodes of season 2 of Konosuba, I would say is way more fan servicey than I don't know, something else that's not quite as overtly fan servicey, right? Because when something doesn't have any reason to be there for the story, then it is, yes, much more clearly fan service, because you're, by taking stuff away, right, less is more, so you're drawing more attention to the stuff that is there, so you're basically saying that the only reason that this is here is because we are giving it to you as a way to service the fans.
Right.
But you don't have to have it just be that way.
Like an example of stories where they continue the story, I would say that's generally where the most fan service comes about, because then they had time to analyze the response to, say, the first movie, the first season, the first core of a show, the first release, and then they go, oh, that was how the fans responded to that. Okay, so in the future, we'll try to give this character more screen time. I would say Levi's character in Attack on Titan is an example of fan service.
Oh, yeah.
It might be also a thing where just the author likes writing Levi, likes spending time with Levi's character. But so it's hard to make that distinction. We don't know.
So for the traditional fan service, because there's plenty of examples, like, you know, any story worth its salt will have at least some non-traditional fan service, right? Because it's a story, it's for entertainment, right? How could it not? But for traditional fan service, J.K. Rowling retroactively adding fan service to the Harry Potter universe.
Oh God, we don't even have to talk about J.K. Rowling in here.
Oh boy,
I've lost a lot of respect for her.
There was a thing that I saw where it was, I think it was like the bathroom thing or something like that, and it was going around, and the response is like, I will literally pay you to stop writing, like, you know, stuff.
Hey, and she kind of needs the money. I've heard she's been running out of her. I mean,
wait,
okay, I mean, in terms of like, you know, hundreds of millions as a...
Okay, I had no idea.
Oh, okay.
But on the fan service thing, one of my personal favorite examples, and this was one of the ones that I would always watch the YouTube, like there was a point where this clip was on YouTube, and it was one of those things where I would have to just make sure not, you know, to watch it in my room or something like that so that people didn't get the wrong idea if they were walking by, was a scene in Roberta's Blood Trail of Black Lagoon, the third season, the OVAs, and I hate that part of Black Lagoon, but there was a scene that I absolutely loved, which ironically was also one of the big fan service scenes of that part of the series, where Revy is taking a shower.
Oh yeah.
And of course this is Black Lagoon, so you know they don't care about censorship. And then she basically comes out of the shower and has this conversation with Rock.
Completely nude.
Yeah. And she's just standing there talking to him. And the conversation is fantastic, right?
Yep.
But it is absolute fan service. But at the same time, I love it because of the fact that they're putting that there. What it basically adds is a dynamic to the conversation.
And by this point, they've gotten a little bit closer. Like, they've gotten a little bit...
Well, okay. Hold on a second. I know you haven't actually watched...
Yeah.
The whole first season of Black Lagoon.
That's true.
But yes, they have. But it's one of those things that I ended up absolutely loving, and this was even way back when I really had a problem with fan service. Now Revy is bae, so that's okay. And yes, I said bae, and that was an example of maybe some negative fan service. But so any examples of the traditional fan service that you guys have that you would like to talk about? Because there could be tons of examples of non-traditional fan service, but of traditional fan service that you particularly enjoyed, let us know.
Tulip5, thank you so much for the follow. Glad to have you here. All right. Do you think anime... Cyros, hey! Do you think anime should try to do more passive fan service? AKA, have it be fan service, but give it almost no attention. Well, it's weird because, again, yeah,
one of the benefits of being anime is that you can do whatever you want, so you aggressively go for whatever it is that you're doing, right? Another favorite example of mine of fan service that is very much obvious, right, but it's still handled in a very natural way is in Toradora, where Kitamura walks up and he's just come out of the shower and he's just holding a towel to cover his junk, and he thinks Takasu's the only person there, but then, oh, there's girls there, and he's like, oh no, and then of course he ends up accidentally dropping it at one point, which, you know, is hilarious. But then there's the more overt examples that I don't like, and I would wish that those were more passive, but the thing is the creators won't know which ones will go across well and which ones won't. So
yeah,
I
would say that there was a good question in here. It says, calling back to a few podcasts ago, what would you say the difference is between standard high impact moments and fan service? Part of this that's a little bit weird here is that when you have a high impact moment in terms of, you know, storytelling and stuff, all we're really meaning is that it's a climax of plot development, but also it's something that elicits a strong, you know, emotional response, you know, a very positive response. So you could almost say that there's very little separation of that, because you could say that, well, it's the part where the storytelling extremely diverted expectations and got a, whoa, that's a really high impact moment. Or I would say, you could say it met all the expectations, but I would say high impact moments tend to be, again, subjective, based around, you know, the people that determine it to be a high impact moment.
And also their moments, whereas fan service can be more of like an ongoing, just like ingredient that you throw in, right?
Right. Yes.
Whereas high impact moments, like you could have a high impact moment that is a fan service, you know.
Yeah. Fan service moments are themed also. Generally.
Go into that.
Like superheroes and superpowers. Like just showing, we're going to show a cool superpower, you know, fight thing, you know, every specific intervals to make sure that
basically fan service can be more general, because high impact moments, for a high impact moment, you do not want it to be general, you want it to be specific, because you're wanting to have it be a moment, so it needs to be clear, crisp, and well defined and all that stuff.
In that respect, that's something that is why I've been hearing a lot of people talk to me about how they didn't like back when I talked kind of haughtily about how fan service is, it's fan service. And this is just horrible. Like, there's no point to this. It's like, oh sure, I might not see any point in it, but that doesn't make it something that's not adding to the story, because again, stories are meant for entertainment.
Right. It's adding to the story, not necessarily the plot or the narrative, but the overall story that's being told. It's adding to it for the perspective of and appealing to whatever audience they're going for.
And I'm still right. It's fan service. It is fan service.
Right.
But it's something that's not servicing me as a fan. It's servicing other fans.
Right. And one of the things that can make fans the most salty is when they aren't serviced.
Yes.
Like, especially when they're expecting service and they don't get it, or even worse, the fan service goes to a different subset of the audience. Yeah.
There's a couple series out there that have reputations for specifically.
I mean, you guys know what they are.
Like, I mean, you know at least a couple of them. I mean, you probably know more than some of the ones that we're talking about here. So it is a weird gray area, and I got to give respect for I think it was Daedra or something who's saying for giving some good diatribe on this, because this is something that we're evolving into, this kind of opinion, I would say. We're understanding more and more, thankfully, because of stories that help with that, like Kill la Kill, where the fan service, in our opinion, is done incredibly well, not just because we enjoy Kill la Kill, but because of how much it is actually important to the story. You can't say, I don't know. I mean, I don't think anyone can say this, but I can't say that there's a point in Kill la Kill where I'm just like, okay, this serves no purpose to the plot, and I don't like it.
Sure.
Like, even if it does serve no purpose to the plot, I still end up liking it. And it's amazing that that's actually something that we're going, oh, wait a minute. No, I wouldn't call that Ragyo scene fan service. I don't know.
What Ragyo scene?
The one Ragyo scene that I was actually upset about.
Oh, gotcha.
Talking Orca and GD Scaris, thank you so much for the follows. Glad to have you here.
Yes.
Caleb fan service the previous Slay the Spire stream by Ora Oring.
Exactly.
Yep. That is true.
Does that scene where the clothes exploded off that one male idol and Death Parade count? Yes.
Wait.
I don't quite...
Was that?
I'm pretty sure I remember. One of the things that I would say would be almost even more fan service, though, is when she slipped on the bar of soap. That was, like, I mean, maybe that's just funny, but, like... Yeah, no, that's just funny. It's
Wow, Made in Abyss elevator scene. Oh my gosh. Oh, the fan service of the All for One versus One for All Might fight was with his old master giving him the last push, everyone shouting, and the music building up the hype, and then him raising his hands in the air, and the All Might theme start playing. If that isn't fan service, then what is? I think that's a good point. Yeah, because it's not necessarily about it actually having the plot capitulate with this big high-impact moment, All Might defeating One for All, or All Might fighting One for All, All Might fighting All for One. It's the way in which the fight went down. Yeah.
Fan service, this is from Sagacious Lass. Fan service is your OTP subtly wearing each other's clothes. See Winry wearing Ed's hoodie. Yes, absolutely.
Yes,
yep.
Yes. On some level, this is another thing that's good to bring up. Is a lot of times the best series end up having the creators become fans of their own series.
Sure.
So they end up servicing themselves with the story, with the presentation. And what's really cool is that the fans then go, oh my gosh, these people just get us. What it actually is, no, they get the show.
And they're making it
for themselves.
Yeah.
Those are some of the best stories.
Yep. That's why one of the most common bits of advice for storytellers is write the story that you want to see in the world.
Yeah, because then you'll end up actually servicing your fans.
Right. There is absolute fan service in Battle Lines, and I love it, and it's so great. And I hope you guys do too.
When you have to leave this podcast to eat, so you continue watching the other podcast released today. Wait, what?
That's a form of fan service. It is definitely servicing yourself.
For sure, yeah.
Yes.
Talking about sudden NTR developments. Wait, what?
NTR, what does that stand for?
Hold on, maybe scroll up here a bit. Lyria, is an alternative way to think about fan service that may be worthwhile is when you have an author who clearly writes for themselves, but at points the series very clearly acknowledges the fan base in their writing, tossing them a bone in a sense. This can happen where there's a most popular character poll.
Sure.
That is something that is also, I would say, outside of the canon of the story. It's usually something like the MHA character polls where they see what does the audience think about the characters. Do you know about those?
Yeah.
Bakugo's won every single one.
Yeah, I don't quite get that.
Oh, I get that. I totally
I get
that.
why,
Yeah.
but
I know he's not your favorite character.
He's not my favorite. And then
still,
that's where the Salt Wars, come in.
But that's the thing, though, is that Bakugo, as a character, for instance, I would say if there's any specific moments where he's being fan serviced, I'm not seeing it as much because I'm not the biggest fan of Bakugo. I'm not going to be targeted for that specifically.
Gotcha.
And I think this is another thing we're trying to bring up, the whole idea of the bringing in a looser definition of fan service, because it is a much looser one, is that you are not the only fan of your show, of that story, of whatever. There are other fans that like it for very different reasons. And unfortunately, that makes it sometimes have there be these weird kind of tribal type fandom wars within the communities.
The best
girl wars are a great example of that.
Evangelion came out how long ago?
Right.
And people are still debating whether it's Asuka or Rei.
Right. Yeah. Or even to say troll a little bit more people who have their favorite waifu or something like that. When you have that setup where there's 4 waifus, husbandos, or whatever to choose from, and you're well, we all don't like that one because that one's the fan service character. Joke's on you. They're all fan service characters. They're there specifically to hit the specific audiences of each one in a form of fan service, and it's brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think Steins Gate is a beautiful example of that. There are so many wonderful side characters in Steins Gate.
And it is absolutely fan service.
It is absolutely
fan
fan service.
Them,
yeah, and they're great.
Yep.
It's just wonderful. Like, bless Daru. Like, he's making all the references, man. It's great.
One of the other ones Lunar pointed out was when Madara Uchiha in Naruto faces off against the entire like Shinobi Alliance or whatever it is.
I've seen that clip.
But yeah, just the one person being like, "Oh yeah,
oh my God, you're all beneath me.
Let's have him just fight like." Everybody, like people. Just literally everybody. Yeah, let's just do that.
Not because it's tactically sound that we send these people in to fight him. No, not at all. Oh my gosh, Daiki with the sub gifts to Benny Dillon and Harvaland. Wow, thank you so much, dude. You're awesome. Cartefel Syrup and Nolask. Thank you so much for the follows. Glad to have you here. If Kill la Kill is using fan service to further its thematic elements and message, does that mean that all fan service in Kill la Kill is furthering its goal? Well, I think that's
what makes it so brilliant.
It gets homogenized to that. I'm sure that a lot of it isn't.
Yeah, like okay, the reason I would say that Kill la Kill fan service is genius because it is fan service. Originally, the original reason that Trigger decided to have all of the transformation sequences and stuff in there was for very specific reasons. But they're like, okay, how do we have that in there and still make people absolutely love the show? How do we make it so that it's not jarring when it happens, even though it would absolutely be jarring on like first experience of it, right? And so then they ended up working it into the story so integrally, so that way we can cheer when there's the whip sounds during the transformation sequence, because the transformation is absolutely amazing. Yeah, exactly. And we are so excited to see it happen.
Oh my gosh. Someone Miguel 2K is responding saying exactly you can't really use the strict definition because the hype is so intertwined with the message of the show.
Yep.
Who is this? Mekashu with saying Nishinoya saving the ball with every part of his body is fan service.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, it's something that doesn't.
Someone said it's Misato, obviously. I almost said that, but
yes, exactly. It's obviously
Komaru.
Oh, Jad the Mad. I think a traditional fan service scene gains points in my book if there is a real sexual tension between the characters.
Yes.
Oh, yes. It's very rare in my experience, but I think a scene where two characters have revealed some vulnerability and may connect over it is infinitely more engaging than accidental boob grabs. See Guts X Casca. Nice.
Yep.
Yeah,
and
totally.
That's the thing, because you have to have chemistry between the characters in order to have romantic chemistry between the characters, and that's something that oftentimes doesn't happen in anime, which is unfortunate, but it doesn't happen a lot of the time in live action either, so, Yeah.
And that's why you're writing stories, too.
Exactly.
This will begin to make things right.
Right.
Oh, my gosh. NTR is related to porn stories. Oh, okay, yeah. I don't want to talk about that. I'm good. Who's best waifu? Exactly. That's
Nui is the best Kill la Kill girl. Prove me wrong.
I have better things to do.
Yeah. Mako exists. Yeah.
Emilia, infinite greater than. Insert name here. Prove me wrong. See, this is a great example of how fan service is. Okay, and here's something that I've always wondered. Do you guys think that now, because of social media and because of how aware people are of the effect of kind of the best girl debate and everything like that, that actually the reason why they're investing so much effort nowadays into actually making good quality waifu characters, like some of them are really good recently, because they know that hub talk, that hype around it actually generates a stronger community, which ends up marketing the show to be bigger than it would have been without it.
Well, ReZero being a great example, they had to make us like the characters, and especially with Rem, they basically gave her a bunch of screen time so that the audience could like her as a character, so that then they would be super salty. One of the examples that I referenced earlier, Revi in Black Lagoon. absolute fan service character, right? But because she's one of the dual main characters, they made sure to give her the proper time for characterizing her and all that stuff and everything. And was it something where they're saying, okay, we have this fan servicey character and now we want to sort of justify it? Possibly.
Sure.
Right? That totally could have been, but the end result still ended up being really good.
Right. It's something, again, where we don't know what the intent of the author necessarily was behind the character.
But let's be real, we can guess.
We can totally guess. Yeah. And a lot of times I think people are right. Yeah. And a lot of times people are right on the money. But I would say that one of the things that's, again, my point with the whole, I would say, semi-logical angle I'm going with this, is that fan service is more pervasive than we'd think, and not all fan service is bad. That is my main 2 points, is that fan service is spread throughout stories in
many shapes and forms.
Many shapes and forms, and I would say also in many different levels of intensity. And that's why Cyros, I think earlier, was saying that we should have more passive and subtle fan service.
Sure.
Which, again, I would say is why anime is so good, in that a lot of their themes and story elements and stuff like this, because it's a visual medium where they can control every bit of it, because it's either hand drawn or
however they're building it from the ground up.
From the ground up. They get, I would say, more rewatch value out of generally their stories, and that's a very small point to make, but I think there's a point to it. I just find anime more rewatchable, and that ends up helping it in some way. Well, in most shonen stories, it's important to set a level for the audience to expect the character to be that, and that's usually created from them having them fight an already established power element. I don't know if Hyper Sakuga moments should count as fan service, so long as they either set a level or a character, further the plot, or develop the world. So in my definition, the Madara fight is fan service, but this fight against the 5 Kages afterwards is not. Oh, is that when he fights like actual strong people?
Probably.
Okay, gotcha. That's why I agree with the definition being service fans want. I, as a viewer, expected that type of show, for sure. This reminds me of my favorite 5 out of 10 anime ever, Chivalry of a Failed Knight, where they have fan service, but it's there to further the romantic arcs between the 2 main characters. Huh. All right, interesting. Funny thing is, NGE showcased Asuka and Rei as damaged and not ideal partners, but became misinterpreted and turned into stereotypes for future generations.
Yes.
That is very true.
Although I don't think Asuka was as groundbreaking as Rem was, because the idea of the tsundere was... It was around. It was definitely around.
Yeah. What are you talking about? Best girl is obviously Kaworu. What about the whole JoJo experience? To me, that feels like fan service galore. Of course, not in a bad way. We absolutely. Yes, we talked about that earlier, and it's definitely a lot of fan service and different levels of it as well. I'm actually on a mouse pad right now. I want to show them, Jacob. Okay, watch the unboxing video coming out tomorrow.
And the mouse pad.
Teaser alert. You're going to see something that you'll only see in the unboxing video. But this is the mouse pad that we got in the unboxing video. You can see it tomorrow on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Semblance of Sanity. But look at this. Look at this. Boing, 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 boing.
And if that's not fan service, this is fan service,
and it's beautiful. I don't know what it
is. Yeah.
Yep. Hope you all enjoyed that.
Some anime do deliberately pour petrol on the raging fire that is waifu wars. Yes.
Yes, exactly. I was like, I love it. Oh my! I love how Peps is giving the what face. I'm just like, oh my god. Best mouse pad, exactly. Against terms of service? Psh, whatever. No, it's not. No, this is legit. It's fine. I feel like Kill Kill fan service, when even it's not about the plot, it still serves a function as comedy. By the way, that Ragyo scene is definitely straight up showing she's a molesting creepy mom. That's definitely not fan service. Yes, you're right. One of the things that's is interesting, someone was mentioning earlier about how comedy, I would say, avoids fan service because of the way jokes are generally structured. It's not something that gets into the specifics of what people are expecting. They're getting in it for specifically having the fun, having the overall experience, and that I would say goes to a point of being so vague that it's not fan service. At least from a genre perspective, there can be fan service.
Or it's hard to talk about that in general terms and equate the two. Yeah,
exactly, for sure. Fan service is bad if your presuppositional belief is that all stories have to be efficient in storytelling. Oh, meaning that all scenes are condensed and as short as possible. In my opinion, this way of thinking isn't that good, but it's hard to argue against. That is an interesting point.
Okay.
Jacob and I have talked a lot about how lingering moments are probably one of the best opportunities to showcase visual storytelling.
Right.
And emotionally grounded, and I would say more somber moments of storytelling.
And it's tough because like the whole philosophy behind us wanting, more concise stories is so that we can get maximum possible enjoyment for our time, right?
Yeah.
And if you think about it, that's kind of wanting a form of fan service in a sense. And then with the other ones that are say slower paced, have more lingering moments. Because again, we've talked about lingering moments and how awesome those can be. It really can get tough, because it is a completely different experience for, say, Hunter x Hunter versus Madoka Magica, right? For
sure.
There are things that they can do in Hunter x Hunter that Madoka Magica would just never be able to do because they are able to take their time.
Yep. Yeah, and taking time in a story is something that should be... Okay, I don't say should. I prefer in stories when the story ends up taking its time and I don't really notice it.
Sure, yeah.
I don't want my immersion broken for anything in a story, really. Like, I don't really want that, especially if I'm supposed to be taking the story seriously. If it's a comedy, sure. But for a story that I'm supposed to be taking seriously on some level, I don't like my immersion broken. And one of the things that in anime, and I would say it's less so actually in live action, except for like specific types of non-linear, like episodic story formats, is when they're intentionally taking their time via the industry kind of tricks and methods that they tend to use for the purpose of...
Yeah, because then you tend to recognize them and... Yeah,
and that's something, again, that I don't even have the full story on, because I've never been on the behind the scenes level creating an anime.
Sure.
I have written stories and stuff, but the actual visual medium tricks that they tend to use are not in the writing. They're actually in the animation. They're in the scene transitions. They're in stuff like that.
One of my other favorite examples of fan service that is also on the whole topic of the slower form story that I didn't realize was taking its time was the Disappearance movie, The Disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya.
For sure.
Tons of fan service in there in traditional and untraditional ways, and it takes its time. Didn't really notice it when I was watching it.
Yep. Great point. I don't know if you guys talked about this already. This is from Mecha Shoe, but my worst experience with people using fan service as a way to take down a story was with Marvel movies. Hey, that's really funny. We were just talking about that. In the case of Infinity War, someone I was talking about who said that he wouldn't even call that a movie just because of the amount of fan service there was in it. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. That's actually something we did talk about, and we were mentioning how great it was that Marvel essentially found a way to monetize and just market pure fan service.
Yeah, in a way that only Disney can.
Yeah, in a way that really only Disney can. It's pretty crazy.
Yep. Isn't there a Konosuba movie in the works? There is indeed, and I am so excited for it.
Yep. I love fan service as much as any from Frizz Froz here, but hate it when it's presented in shows that pitch themselves too seriously at the start.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the I would say if there's traditional fan service, the next secondary form of fan service that's most common and most recognized is the violence and gore fan service in anime.
Right.
We had a big issue with Akame ga Kill because it absolutely did fan service on the violence aspect, which wouldn't have inherently have been a problem, except that the show seemed to take itself so seriously. So then it ended up feeling more like satire or parody than anything.
We can't connect the two. We can't reconcile them, and it becomes unentertaining. It doesn't become entertaining for us.
But then you have things like for instance, even though I'm not the biggest fan of, say, Hellsing, the gore and violence in Hellsing is absolutely fan servicey, but it doesn't really take itself seriously. Come on, let's be real. No, not really.
I mean, it's in terms of just protagonists that really just do not care because they cannot be stopped by anything.
Yeah, like
exactly. Alucard is right up there, one of the top. It's ridiculous. So yeah, you can't take it that seriously, and that's why I think even the abridged even came about by Team 4-Star, because there's so much right potential within that. Because the whole story type is taken so seriously, and that's actually where I think the side characters of I almost call it Alucard, but of Hellsing Ultimate end up being so good in certain parts. Because they handle the fan
From Caleb 1002, yeah, I totally agree with them, but holy shit, Caleb is the sexiest of all humans.
Oh, you wanted to read that. I was going to skip over that.
I'm a good brother, Caleb.
All right, okay. Every Megaman's explosions are fan service. Yep, Harvalent, you and someone else. I don't remember who it was on this. But
I agree
on this thing.
I absolutely
think exactly
agree.
like. Oh yeah, we agree as well.
Like I'll show people just the clips of like the compilation clips of Megaman's explosions, no context, to basically get people to watch Konosuba.
Oh, Lunar said earlier, I think it's technically possible to have lingering moments and maintain peak efficiency, but doing that is so incredibly difficult that very few creators might even be able to pull it off.
Is this a silent voice? Yeah.
Is this the greatest anime movie of all time?
Yep. Is this the greatest movie? Yeah. Yep. Yeah, basically.
Right, for sure.
The directing of silent voice is amazing, because the fact that it's able to actually do that is incredible.
Konosuba depends heavily on comedic timing, so the English dub is a gamble. Risk losing the joke in translation for the chance to really make them land.
Yeah. Plus, the voice acting in Konosuba is just amazing. I mean, let's be real.
Hi, Kazuma desu. Yeah. I love, actually, this is something that Konosuba did really well, was they would have people talking over each other in the dialogue. You'll rarely see that in anime where multiple people will be talking at the same time. Like, that's a very rare thing.
Oh,
there's parts where you'll see, like, Megumin rambling on, and you just have Kazuma in the back going, stare, 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 getting closer and closer. But then you have moments where they're like, oi, Kazuma, and it's like, Kazuma, hi, Kazuma, like it's all happening so fast.
Yep. Same thing with, like, A Place Within the Universe.
They
dubbing
did that
show would be a nightmare.
Hellsing
Ultimate Abridged is the most serious show I have ever watched. How dare you, Jacob?
Oh man, that's great. Have you guys seen Into the Spider-Verse? No, we have not yet. Have you? Actually, I
have not.
Yeah, I think you had. That entire movie is basically a film made by fans for the fans. There was even a Tobey Maguire dance scene from Spider-Man 3 reference at the beginning of the film. You know what's great?
That is awesome.
I think this is a sign, and this is something I just, it's blowing my mind just thinking about it. I think we're becoming more and more acclimated towards fan service in a positive way. There was a movie that came out, and it did that for me, and I thought the movie was going to be garbage. I thought it was going to be a cash grab. What was it? The Lego movie. The Lego movie.
Yep,
Lego movie. If you go watch the first Lego movie, that movie is, I think it's just genius.
Awesome.
It is totally fan servicey. It is
literally
covered in
one
fan
big
service.
Product placement.
But that's
it's
the thing.
Amazing.
That's the thing. I thought it was going to be just a a big product placement.
Yeah.
And it is.
Yeah, it is.
But it's so much more. And
Yep.
that's something that I think, again, is the intent part. We can think about this from the intent of, okay, Disney. I think it was Disney, right? No, it was Warner Brothers. Because they have Batman and all that. That's right, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, wait, I don't know who did the Lego movie. But there's some studio or whatever that's like, we're going to do Lego movie and we're going to sell Legos because of that. That's great.
Yep.
That's their intent. They then go and hire writers, directors, and stuff to create that. What their intent within the story part is to actually make a movie that's successful.
Right. And it was.
And it was very financially successful. But they also added in all these fan servicey elements and a clever story. And some parts they bled together pretty well. That ended up really connecting a lot of people with that movie. I haven't watched any of the sequels or the Batman version
I
of it.
do want to watch the Batman one, though.
I kind of want to as well.
I get the feeling that'd be really good.
Yeah, so that's another example of that. Every Zawardo and muda from Dio is fan service. Yeah, that's the issue I have with that a little bit is just that like we're still in the middle of the fight and stuff, and if Dio like dies here and stuff, that's not gonna have been like a very like long thing. So it's like
I don't think they're gonna kill Dio.
Oh, you don't think they're gonna?
I don't
kill
think
Dio?
so.
Okay, I think they are, but all right. You're right. There isn't a debate. Anime is trash. Oh man. I feel like the criticism of this thing takes itself too seriously isn't quite the right wording for the intent. Whatever people say that I feel like they have a completely different complaint than the wording implies. Maybe shows that draw that complaint have tone issues or problems drawing people into its conflict.
Sure. Yeah, okay, yeah, because when you think about that, the show taking itself too seriously basically is that I couldn't take the show as seriously as the show wanted me to take it, which basically indicates a lack of investment.
Right.
And with the example of A Kame ga Kill, the biggest issue that I had with that was that they went straight into an episodic storyline without introducing properly the main character and his grounding and his why and everything. Mm-hmm. So you're probably 100% right.
Speaking of, oh wait, hold on. I hear Kazuma Des was improvised. Oh, that's awesome, Psychrodia.
I believe it.
Have we all forgotten the Ghost Stories dub?
Yes.
If the English team gets enough creative freedom, we could get some good stuff, considering the Konosuba dub.
But Konosuba was already amazing, it's
gonna be tricky. It's gonna be tricky. No Japanese Spider-Man, 0 out of 10. Oh my gosh. I was just about to say the Lego Movie in all caps, Dutch dirt box. Exactly, right? Oh, it's awesome. Everything is awesome. Everything is cool when you're part of a dream. Or did I say dream?
Yeah.
I didn't say team. Oops. Yeah. It works too, I guess.
And then it's when you live in a dream.
Right, there you go. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Darkness, no parents in the basement.
Yeah.
Yes. Phil Lord and Chris Millard. Yep.
Jad the Mad. Studios are finally catching on that it's best to hire fans to direct their shameless cash grabs. Yes, absolutely.
Guys, this is actually another thing that I think is really cool. Fandoms are starting to run the world. This is okay. This is no. This is
the world.
No. This is how you know. This is how you know it's actually true. Just look at Elon Musk and his Twitter account. If that guy isn't memeing and trolling to specifically target fandoms, which are large groups of people, to just actively become interested potential consumers in what he's doing, I think Elon Musk is being next level genius, even though he is potentially IQ. In some high stress thing that might be making him lose some semblance of sanity. I think it's genius. So just some high potential, high IQ stuff from someone that's worth billions of dollars.
Do you guys update your Mal?
Jacob, do we update our Mal? Because you're kind of in charge of that, right?
Yeah, sure.
Because you've seen more things than me, and everything I've seen, you've seen now.
Yeah, it's kind of tough to find some things in now, and I might just be a little bit lazy. But I'll update that.
Okay, you can take a look at that as something. Caleb, part of a dream. Caleb's Griffith confirmed. It's funny because on some level, I really liked Griffith, even though I knew that there was going to be something wrong with him. I didn't know how extreme it would be, but I really did Griffith's a great, complex character, and I actually do see a lot of
character. He's a horrible person, but a great character.
He's a horrible person, but a great character. I saw a lot of the things that I value a lot in life in Griffith, and that was when I realized. That's when I realized, this character is geniusly written. So this is good stuff.
And yes, we did. Or wait, did you see this guild? I know I saw it.
I don't believe it because there's it's easy to Photoshop anything on a black one single color shirt.
But did you see the pictures?
Yeah, I saw the pictures.
Oh, okay. I'm
I think it could be. I think it could be photoshopped.
Okay, well, I mean,
Elon Chan is being himself. Stop bullying.
It's easy to check.
Leave Brittany alone.
Because it's not like he deletes them or anything, so you could probably just check on Twitter and
gamers rise up. Yeah, exactly. Caleb and Jacob playing Doki Doki is fan service. Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah. We love it. We love it and hate it. Monica needs to die. But
Fans have grown up and are leading the industry for a long time, guys. Eno was an otaku ever since he was a kid, and so is most of the industry. What's expanding the industry is the delayed globalization in Japan, which still didn't happen. Oh,
well, okay.
Yeah,
and
great
one
point,
of the things,
Sadra. Yeah.
one of the things that so I was watching some of the Ghibli documentary that's on Crunchyroll, Kingdom of Dreams and Madness, and there was a point for The Wind Rises where they were trying to figure out who was going to voice the main character, and they ended up, long story short, they ended up getting Hideki Anno to voice him.
Okay.
Because he basically he drew the giant in Nazca.
Uh-huh.
And then they got him. They were like, "Hey," like, and this is all in the documentary, but they call him and they're like, "Hey, so got a question, and we're absolutely serious, but would you be willing to come in and do auditions for the voice of the main character of, The
Wind Rises?"
Yeah, The Wind Rises. And then he actually came in, and they were like, "All right, yeah, your voice fits really well. Okay, let's do this."
That's awesome. That's great. In some respect, it's when I'm talking about now in terms of context, it's more like what I should always preface this is that I'm realizing, because my perception is slowly expanding as I get more involved with the anime and stuff like that.
Nothing.
It has nothing to do. Correlation doesn't equal causation in this regard. Just because I'm suddenly now perceiving it doesn't mean that it's suddenly now happening.
Right.
It's something that I would say I could argue that it is on an increasing uptick in causation, but that's just more so my perception being open to seeing that it is actually a thing. But yeah, it's a great point. Get Taiga and Annalist to keep track of watched anime. Totally not a shill. Back when I was a brony, some episodes literally had Metal Gear Solid and other video game movie references in it. There was even some anime references there too. The producers of that show really gave back to their fans.
Oh wow,
that's amazing. I've never experienced anything of the My Little Pony franchise, and to know that there's that much kind of referential fan service in there is amazing.
I saw one skit from My Little Pony because Grey Delisle guest starred as a new character, and it basically was just her getting really upset because there was a cupcake or a muffin that she really wanted to get, and she wasn't able to get it. So then she goes on some crazy rampage destroying the city, as
only Great Allow characters would.
Yeah, exactly. And it was great. It was absolutely fantastic.
What are you saying, that I cannot have this cupcake? How dare you! Well, I will burn this city to the ground!
Well, Great Delisle has amazing range, so you would not know it.
Oh, really?
Listening to her, yeah.
She sounded way more like nasally and like a kid and stuff.
She sounded more like this.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Dang. All right. Did you know recently you were on camera? Yes, we saw that. We saw that picture. It's not Photoshop. There's a group picture with it. Okay.
Yep.
Dang, cool. I almost feel like in this day and age I kind of need to see video, though. Like, I'm sure it's not Photoshop.
Believe in the dream, Caleb.
Yes, I know. I need to just believe. It's all I need to do. Oh, man. Okay. You heard of the new Cowboy Bebop Netflix adaptation? I think it can be good because of its Western influence in the original. What do you guys think?
Yeah. Okay. Here's the thing. They need to Edge of Tomorrow Pacific Rim this, right? Because Cowboy Bebop, if you think about it, should be one of the easiest anime to make a live-action adaptation for. Because there's no supernatural elements, right? It's Firefly the anime, basically.
Yeah.
So
the hardest thing is going to be the casting and the acting, and that's it.
But basically, they shouldn't worry about trying to have his hair look the same.
Yep.
It should be reminiscent, but not the same.
Right. They shouldn't be worried about necessarily having every episodic story that was in Cowboy Bebop in this one.
Bring different new stories. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't need that. If you need to have the linear part of the story in there, like exactly like that, go for it. But I feel like we as fans need to let the adaptation part from specifically from anime to live action,
let there be a separation from the original and the newly created work. Yeah
because there's already is like that. There already is something like that in manga, like when you go from manga to anime,
hence the meme of manga anime Netflix adaptation.
Yes, exactly. So there you go. Hey, Cyrus with the 100 bits. Thanks for the reminder that the Doki Doki voices were the best SOS fan service.
Thank you. Glad you liked them.
Yeah.
I'm very glad that I didn't stick with
something
the
just went a little
high-pitched
weird with
voice.
our chat. I am not able to see chat right now.
Maybe that was something that the mods did because there was like...
No, I don't think so. Okay, there it is.
Oh,
Mode is
okay.
back. Chat just disappeared for a moment. Yeah, that was weird.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so they're back, though. They should hire Tobey Maguire as Space Samurai Andy.
Okay.
All right. Eric Walt with the 100 bits. Just
Thank
cheer.
you.
Hey, thank you, Eric. You're awesome. By the way, Eric, we opened your gifts.
Yes.
And, thank
you very
much. Very much.
Yes.
We're very glad to have them there. Oh, nothing happened on your screen, Wolfenstein? Interesting. Okay. So...
But yeah,
we're gonna wrap things up here, guys. But yeah, we wanted to make a couple points and kind of the format that we ended up having here. This turned out really good because we wanted to joke around with the idea of the podcast number 69 and have it be about fan service because of course, but also talk about how fan service adds to storytelling.
sure. Yeah.
And how it complements, it seasons storytelling.
Right.
It shouldn't, in our opinion, I would say completely replace storytelling. But in that respect of the seasoning and stuff, when you taste a really good seasoned steak, there should be that part where the seasoning and the steak blend together and you're like, wait a minute. Like, I'm tasting something new. Like, I'm tasting something special. And I think that's where fan service and storytelling can mesh, is that there's that part where it's clearly that the fan service, the part where it's clearly the the storytelling, stuff to further the characters and the plot and all that. But then there's that other part where you're like, I can't fully guess the intent, with certainty as to whether or not this was, for the most part fan service or for the most part something that was, absolutely had to go exactly this way for the plot and in terms of managing expectations. Yeah. So yeah.
Can't wait for podcast 420.
Hey, podcast 420. How many years is that?
That's 69. So that's about that's 350. So it's about 7 years.
It's about 7 years away. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Erwin is my president with the 100 bits.
Thank you.
Thanks for the relaxing afternoon as I watch your podcast. Aww. You're a great president, Erwin. Thank you very much for doing what you do. Story is beef, fan service is salt. By what people say, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yes, I would say that in the aspect that a story doesn't need fan service, that is true. But a story does need story, like that is important. That fan service is the unnecessary thing that can be made into something valuable that adds to it. And it becomes, I would say, it becomes necessary by the virtue of its presence. It's like the characters in Konosuba. Yep. It's like the antics of Isaac and Miria and Bakane.
Oh, yeah.
It's the hype explosion energy blast in a shonen, thing or what have you. It's the ridiculous weapons of Ruby. It's all of it,
Shirobako and Bakuman is pure manga and anime creating industry fan service. Yes.
Ah!
I've seen Shirobako and I absolutely agree. Yep.
Yes. Absolutely. Would you all ever consider doing a ReZero podcast? I'd love to hear what y'all discuss on why you didn't enjoy the last half and the things it got right, because I feel that the next arc of the story would fix a lot of those problems. So let's make something a little clear here. I am on the irrationally disliking side of things with regards to ReZero.
You know how
I went and rewatched actually a good chunk of ReZero, and I fell asleep so hard when I got to the points where I wasn't, interested in the story.
But he also, and I'll say this because he was talking to me and he was like, I'm rewatching ReZero and I forgot how good a lot of this show is. But then when there were the parts that he didn't like, he was like, oh yeah, that's right.
So it's a weird thing where
beef and salt, lots of salt.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't serviced in the way that I wanted to be.
Hence, he's very salty.
And it is kind of funny because if you think about the nature of fan service there, and you expect fan service in a lot of ways, that does create a certain mentality that as fans we're entitled to be serviced, which is in and of itself kind of a gift from the creator to be, the creators of the stories to be serviced in that way, right? So wouldn't it be, in some ways, a little bit selfish to call that, you know, certain fan service is bad? Maybe I'm just starting I'm opening a whole nother can of worms that I don't even have to at the end of the podcast.
Let's leave the philosophy discussions for...
for another time. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching the podcast here, for hanging out with us. This was a lot of fun. Age G. Lunas, thank you so much for the follow. Glad to have you here. Yeah, we have the Berserk volume reaction review tomorrow at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We have the Doki Doki Literature Club Let's Play going on Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Craziness happens.
This is amazing. Going through right now.
Thursday.
Did I say Wednesday? Sorry, Thursday.
Yeah.
Thursday. Doki Doki is Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Yep.
And then gaming with me on Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you weren't there on last Friday, because I finally beat Ascension 20 on Slay the Spire, I now went and downloaded off of Steam The Witcher 3. And I'm going to start playing it. I'm going to start playing it.
I'm kind of jealous.
Yeah.
The music in that game is amazing.
What I'll do, Jacob, is
a few tracks, but
when we get to a VOD that has some of that music potentially, like I'll clip out bits of it.
Sure, right,
yeah, for sure. But yeah, I'll be starting The Witcher 3 there, so make sure to check us out there Friday, 5 p.m. Standard Time, and then next week, of course, for the podcast. Same time, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Check out our YouTube channel. YouTube.com/Semblance of Sanity. If you happen to stumble across us here and you're like, wait, who are these nerds? What's going on? Fan service? Okay. So, y'all are awesome. We'll see you in future video. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.